Hello, students. Welcome to week 6. So, as we're nearing the end of the course, we'll wrap up the weekly lecture this week with textbook chapters 6 and 12. It's amazing how quickly this semester has gone. I'm sure you'll all agree with me on that. So, last week we got introduced to management and all the different tasks of the planning, um, organizing, controlling, and directing the resources, the people. So, building the organization and working the strategic plans, the high level plans, setting goals, objectives, things like that for your business. And we get familiar with the organizational structure and how people are put together based on the different functions and the different needs of the organization. And lastly, we moved into the chapter a little bit on the marketing side. We got introduced to establishing target markets, promotional plans, who's going to buy your product, how you're going to price your product, all the different things. We talked about the 4 P's of marketing: product, price, excuse me, place, and promotion. And so we went through some of that. This week, we're going to move into chapter 6 and talk a little bit more on the people side of things, which is we call recruiting, motivating, and keeping employees. And today, excuse me, more than ever, this is really difficult chore for most companies, especially on the recruiting side, because um, a lot of times, what are you doing in your company to entice people to want to work for you? And the other part of it is that what are you doing to retain people? So, acquiring people or hiring people is a very expensive process. So when you do that, you want to make sure you get the right people and that you don't have, and those people stay for a long time and they contribute to the organization. You have to keep bringing people on time and time again. I worked in the electrical field, distribution field, and the electricians, the biggest thing that they have concerns about is the fact that they can't get people. The trades years ago, a few years back, when the recession hit back in 2009, a lot of people left the trades because the business was pretty much dried up and people went into other areas. So by default, that industry got hit pretty bad in terms of the number of people left to work in the field. So that's been a really tough thing. And going forward, it's been a tough thing for the electrical side. I actually heard the other day that Microsoft is trying to hire 5,000 people. So as we can see, and we can hear statistics about the job market being the highest employment. That's all great. And the other part of this whole thing too is the fact that you need people that have some qualifications. In the case of Microsoft, it may not just be very entry level, basic. They may require a certain technical skill or whatever. So some of these jobs do come with certain requirements that companies would be looking for. And the bottom line is that companies that truly spend the time to create an environment for their people are the ones that really win in the long run. And not every company works the same way. Not everybody's a Starbucks that believes in the environment, believes in their people as well, and does everything they can do to keep their people employed. And there were some references to Howard Schultz in that type of thing. So he has regard self-esteem, self-respect, and really looks at it from the point of view of the people side. Not being perfect, but doing a better job than most companies. His commitment is to his employees embedded in the mission of Starbucks, and that is that we always treat each other with respect and dignity, and they work hard to be able to achieve some of that. And excuse me, I've got a little bit of a cold, so I'm going to be coughing a little bit here, unfortunately. And so we're going to move into a little bit on what we call the human resource management process. And because this is where the textbook is talking now, because this is all the actions that an organization takes to attract, develop, and retain quality employees. And each of these activities is complex. And so that's a big deal. So what are you doing? And so they talk about this, what they call a 5-step process in the human resource management section. And the first thing they do is, excuse me, is they perform what they call a job analysis, and that is to determine, what is this particular job that you're going to we're talking about. What are the different skills that's needed in the job, whether it's technical, administrative skills, people skills, or whatever. And so that's really one step in the process of putting together a human resource planning process. Forecast, what do you need for people? What kinds of talents? What kinds of attributes do people have? Skill sets, things like that. Are you going to need as you today service your business, support your business, and how you grow your business? What are you going to need? How do you recruit qualified people? Today, the process is a lot different than it was years back. I think 10, 15 years ago. Now it's all social media. A lot of times it's, people networking, those kinds of things. Also, they say the best people is, a referral from somebody that already works for the company. So you may know a friend that, let's just say there's a marketing job that's required, and you know somebody that has some sort of a skill set similar to what you're looking for, and that's another way of getting people. And then, next is select the right candidates that to be able to support the roles. So people, again, today they do a lot of things. Companies do a lot of things like they do different personality tests to determine whether you have certain attributes. So they take and they profile like your best candidate for, let's just say, a sales job, and then they have people take these different tests to see if their skill sets align more to the what they call the perfect salesperson, and they try to align them as best they can to those people to see if they say, if I have these skills, if they have these skills, they're more apt to do the position or do the job most effectively. And the last part of it is training and development. And I think companies today, a lot of companies do a very poor job at that. From the orientation of the first time you join the company. A lot of times, I have done in the past where I've had people work in different parts of the company just to get a feel for what each other person does and how their job impacts other people's jobs in the company. But she's got a good cross section of how the company works and what the people do within the company. So that and the fact and the training part of it. What are you doing consistently to make sure people they renew their skill sets and developing the skill sets and understand and have, if you need product knowledge, excuse me, what are you doing to acquire that? And that type of thing. And so the other part of this, and so that's sort of the 5 steps that we'd call the human resource planning process. There's a lot more detail in the book, just kind of covering the surface in terms of what that means. The other thing the book talks about was the diverse workforces. And today we have much diverse workforces. And for a lot of reasons, it's all very good because you've got people from different cultures, from different countries, and different ways people do business, things like that. So it's a really, it's actually really, it makes it a little more challenging too for management. And companies do this a lot of times. There's legal ramifications, discrimination laws, and things that companies have to be aware of. They do it because it's the right thing to do, or it's good for business. I think it's great to have the cross section because we have my company. We have a number of different people that speak different languages, come from different countries, and it makes it all good, especially if you're in a business. Most of your businesses are worldwide. So you're dealing with people from other countries. We have a gentleman that speaks German, and he was able to work with us on developing, excuse me, some brochures for Germany and speaking the language. So it's all good. And so there's a lot of good points for why you have a diverse workforce. The next thing they talk about is motivating employees, and what is it going to take to keep people motivated? That's a big deal. Whether it's perks and different things like that, but also challenges of the work and having the work be something that people enjoy doing. And so it's an internally generated drive to achieve a goal or follow a particular course of action. So basically, you're happy, you're not happy, whatever. And so what motivates you to do well in those kinds of things? Let's just say in this particular course you're taking here. So, what motivates you to do well? Well, certainly a lot of people want to get a good grade, right? So you could say some of that, learning the materials, certainly get a better knowledge of the business world, which hopefully you're doing. Pleasing the teacher. Well, again, I'm not here for you to have to please me. I'm here to, I want to make sure that all of you are getting what you're looking for. And that is learning the material. And then ultimately, yes, earning a good grade, and so on and so forth. And so they talk about influential theories of motivation. And I'm not going to get into all of them. I think there's 5 of them listed in the book. One of the most popular ones, or the most prevalent ones, is this whole Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And you probably have already seen this or read about this in some of your other courses. But they talk about these 5 unmet needs that you have. And basically, you got to, they talk about this pyramid of, and you got to satisfy the lower needs versus the higher needs. And all starts with your psychological needs, safety needs, social needs, esteem, self-actualization. So all the way from, being happy with your home life and all the things, financial stability, all the way to friendships and status, and then ultimately success. So, as you're working in your jobs, making sure that, I mean, if one thing is building on the other, people that are happy in their jobs, like what they do, making good money, financially, they're being well satisfied. socially, they're well connected. I mean, those are all the things that you want to achieve for motivation. Um, and so the book then goes on to talk about performance appraisals. So as you join a company or with a company over time, we talk about these performance appraisals, and basically it's an assessment of what are you doing, well, how are things going in terms of your goals and objectives, and are you accomplishing them, and what do we need to help you, what are the barriers that are affecting you. And a few things that you want to accomplish here in a performance review is, what should you be doing? How well are you doing it? And basically, how could you improve your performance? And I think these performance reviews are a very important tactic for companies to sit with the employees on. I think a lot of times, people look at it as a means to get a cost of living raise. I don't necessarily look at it as entirely that way, although certainly that's important to a lot of people, but also coaching during the year. I don't think this is performance reviews are typically given annually. I say that you need to work with your people on a monthly or a bi-monthly basis to understand, how are they doing, what do they need, what are the barriers, and those kinds of things. So there's a big process here. The book talks a little bit about it in terms of being able to get feedback and understand again where you stand with your company. And so, then the process talks about, setting goals, because everybody should have goals and objectives, time frames to accomplish things, and those types of things. And I think that in the performance review, the employee needs to write their side of things and how they assess where they are. And a lot of times, I think the input from the employees is as much important as that from the employer. They talk a little also about the labor unions, and again today, the labor unions aren't as prominent as they were years ago. I think at one time there was over 33% of the companies were into labor unions versus I think back in the 50s to like maybe 13% now. But why would you want to organize? A lot of times it was because there was some unfairness between the employees and the employer. Today, with even all the laws and things are a lot more level playing field. But there are the unions are prominent in a lot of industries, like the electrical industry I'm in. There's a big union there, and it works for people, and so on and so forth. So they've lost popularity, the unions, but they're still prominent out there. Okay, and I think that's pretty much it before I get to chapter 12. So a couple more things. Okay. Chapter 12 is pretty much on a little bit more on the accounting. So it's called the role of accounting in business. And, this is not a financial class. It's not an accounting course. And I know that all of you that are in some sort of a program are probably already taking a lot of this and understanding the different pieces of business. So I'm just going to really touch briefly on chapter 12, which is, like I said, the role of accounting for business. And so I'm only touching the surface here. On this particular subject. So pretty much there's two areas of accounting. So there's two major fields of accounting, what they call the managerial and the financial. And the managerial part of it is that there's a bunch of information out there that companies need to look at and to make decisions on whether they make investments or whatever. So on the managerial side, on the financial side. But the managerial side is that a lot to do with pulling reports together and really trying to bring information together so you can make some decisions. On the financial side, these people are the ones that are helping to assess the performance of the company, what's going well, what isn't, and should I invest, should I not. And so managerial plays a key role in helping managers carry out the responsibility. And and then we talk a little bit about some of the different statements, income statement, balance sheet, and statement of cash flows. And basically, the income statement basically just shows your revenues, sales, and projections. So are you profitable, you're not profitable. And that's pretty much the income statement. So it's your sales, cost of goods sold, which is your cost, and then ultimately what your net profit is. You look at your expenses and things. And it's basically just a good telltale of your business and if you're making money or not. The balance sheet talks about the assets, things that you own versus what you owe, and sort of looks at, from that point of view, to basically records information a specific period of time, usually over a period of a year. And so, like I said, and then the difference between your assets and liabilities is what your equity is and what you actually own at that point in time. And cash flow is really a statement in time of, what you're paying out versus what you're taking in. So, again, you can look at this in more detail. If you have questions on it, certainly I'll be happy to go through it with you. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with it. This is not a financial class, but just want to get you exposed to it a little bit. And so I think that that pretty much does it on the financial statements. They talk a little bit about, you can look at like an income statement, you can look at what they call this percentage analysis, where you can see what percentage of your expenses are to sales, and it's all calculated on a dollar basis. So 100% would be your sales, and then anything that would be a portion of that. So how much of that is your expenses, your cost of goods sold, and then ultimately what's your net income? What percentage of your overall net sales nets you income? And that can be anywhere. It'll vary from company to company to company. So hopefully it's positive and that you're making some money. So that's pretty much it on on that chapter. So just what I want to say is, this semester's gone very fast, and we've covered a lot of material, and certainly I've condensed a lot. So I expect that you would reach out to me with any questions if you want to talk more on different topics. But certainly it's been a really good semester in terms of, hopefully that everybody's really appreciated some of the information that we've talked about. Some, we've looked at real companies and things like that. So, you got a chance to be able to take a lot of this information now over the course of the semester and put that into your final exam or your final report. So I'm looking forward to reading that. And like I said, I think at the end of it all is that if anything, this whole course will give you a good overview of business and how it works. So we've got another couple of weeks left here, and again, once again, just make sure you get your online assignments, discussion forums, things like that, and certainly the weekly feedback. If you got questions and things, never hesitate to reach out. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you during the week.